The premiere episode of Lord of the Rings: Rings of Power is soon at hand, and the hype is building up quickly, folks. The recent trailer makes clear the presence of Sauron, at least for those who are in the know. What do we know about this show going into the first episode? What can be gleaned from this trailer? We'll be combing through the key moment with a fine-tooth comb, so be sure to stick around till the end to get all the key details. Let's get started. First, let's look into what Galadriel is getting up to. Featured quite heavily throughout the trailer is Galadriel, the Lady of the Woods of Lothlorien. That only stands to reason, as the elvish warrior we see here becomes an elvish queen later in life, and that version of her is one that casual Lord of the Rings viewers would be familiar with, one of only a small handful of such characters present in Rings of Power. Galadriel was portrayed by Cate Blanchett in the iconic films, whereas the younger version seen here is played by Morfydd Clark. Here in this trailer, we see the young warrior toss the last empty elvish helmet upon a large pile of them, a quick and quiet way to show off the casualties of war. We see peaceful and happy imagery flash across the screen, showing the time that preceded these days, a time without bloodshed. Beautiful shots of nature interspersed with Galadriel receiving a royal honor as she narrated the events, saying, quote, "We thought the war at last was ended. We thought our joys would be never-ending. We thought our light would never dim." End quote. But of course, there's only one problem with times of great peace and prosperity. They make for lousy TV shows, so they have to end. In the following shot, we see the future queen approach a sphere known as a palantir. A palantir is, as I'm sure you're well aware if you're watching this video, one of 7 seeing stones. The palantiri, and yes, that's the plural form of palantir, don't worry, you haven't missed anything, were created by the Noldor, a race of ancient elves. In the time of the Second Age, which happens to be the period in which the Rings of Power is set, the elves of Middle-earth gifted these mysterious black spheres to Numenor's most faithful residents. As we later see in the Third Age, these 7 stones, there were once 8 of them, but this is no time to talk about that, were placed at wide distances from each other and used for communication purposes. It's a little bit troubling to see the sphere here though, if only because the palantiri are magical objects of extraordinary power that, in the wrong hands, could very well be used for malevolent means. In The Lord of the Rings, Sauron used the palantiri to corrupt and manipulate a number of influential characters, including Saruman and Denethor II, and Pippin was nearly on the receiving end of this as well. But hey, at least there's no Sauron to worry about here, since that's a villain of the Third Age, right? Uh-oh. That brings us to our next entry. Sauron is indeed present in the Rings of Power show. Did you miss his appearance in the trailer? While the show will mainly be showing us characters we haven't yet seen on the silver screen, Galadriel isn't the only familiar face around. Well, okay, we hadn't actually seen the face of Sauron before, so actually, she is the only familiar face. Actually, that face is different now because it's a different actress. Wow, this metaphor fell apart before it could even get started. Let's start over. Galadriel isn't the only familiar name in the Rings of Power trailer. There we go. She actually teases the presence of another very familiar character when she says, "Evil does not sleep, it waits." If that line seems familiar to you, it's because it echoes a very similar statement made by Boromir in Fellowship of the Ring, in which he states, "There is evil there that does not sleep." The evil that Boromir spoke of is that which resided in the center of Mount Doom in Mordor. This is more than just a cheeky reference, but a hint that Galadriel is talking about the one and the same entity, that of course being Sauron. You may well have watched the trailer a few times without picking up Sauron's presence. Some others may have noted that his mark appears on a stone, signifying he's present in the show, but still missed the fact that he actually makes a direct appearance in the trailer, and appearing in the flesh for once at that. You might have well seen him without realizing it, as he is in fact the dude in the white robe that looks a little bit like Eminem, which, yeah, I think is what we all imagined a humanoid version of the big scary flaming eye would look like, right? Well, it's the first truly human appearance we've seen him take on, as aside from the iconic eye, Sauron has otherwise only appeared in the form of a black suit of armor. Sauron, like many other Tolkien characters, can take on many appearances. Much like Gandalf and Saruman, Sauron is a celestial spirit called Amaya, meaning he's one of the beings that helped the Valar shape the world. Sauron was, as we all surely know, a pupil of Vala-Ole, something of a Lucifer allegory. He would betray the Valar and side with Morgoth, the Dark Lord, a title that would later be passed down to him throughout the Second and Third Ages. In the Rings of Power, Sauron is still in the early stages of his plan to bind the Rings of Power into the iconic one ring to rule them all. Still low in power, at least compared to where he's destined to be in the future, we will see him adopt the guise of Anatar, an elf that calls himself the Lord of Gifts. Anatar would of course be the blonde man we're speaking of, played by Anson Boone. This disguise is canon to J.R.R. Tolkien's writings. While the show is largely an original concept, it is still taking from the greater history of the world, as documented in the Silmarillion among other works. And leaning into this is a solid choice, as it allows Sauron to, have expressions. Let the guy playing him act with more than just his voice for once. It's handy. What are the quick details details of the show. As you've probably gleaned by now, the show is a prequel to the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit film trilogies, as these events occur, a few thousand of years earlier. The groundwork for this production can be traced back to 2017, where Amazon beat out HBO and Netflix, among other outlets, in a sort of bidding war to get the rights to the franchise. From the beginning, this was a big commitment, as it's believed that 5 seasons are planned from the outset. As it's an Amazon production, it will be airing on Amazon Prime. The first episode is set to premiere on September 2nd, 2022. Amazon had previously announced that the season will feature 8 episodes in total, starring cast members including Morfydd Clark, Cynthia Ade Robinson, Robert Aramayo, Owain Arthur. You know, it's actually way too long of a list. Let's move on to the last big thing we can spot in the trailer. And boy, it is really a big thing indeed. It's the Balrog. If you close the video early on the trailer, you may have missed this one. Like a post-credits scene in a Marvel movie, one of the more fun teasers comes after the title card and release date flashes on screen. We see a glimpse of one last old friend, a real warm bosom buddy, none other than the Balrog. Or probably more accurate to say, a Balrog. Balrogs, also known as the Vala Roker, are Malar who ended up being corrupted by the OG Dark Lord. Casual Lord of the Rings fans are familiar with the Balrog found in the mines of Moria. The dwarves accidentally woke this creature up as he slumbered deep beneath the kingdom of Khazad-dûm. That Balrog's actual name was Durin's Bane, and he slugged it out with Gandalf before being killed. What's intriguing about this creature's appearance in the trailer is that it seems to indicate the first deviation from the source material, as there was no known Balrogs present in the historical accounting of the Second Ages. But given what an iconic and just honestly really cool looking monster the Balrog has become, it's no wonder why the showrunners wanted one for their show. I mean, wouldn't you adopt a Balrog if you could? I certainly want one. Whether he's related to Durin's Bane or a totally different demon trying to catch some shut-eye, only time will tell. And that is all the time we have for today's video. Did you notice Sauron's appearance in the trailer? Have you been waiting desperately for this show to come to fruition ever since it was first hinted at back in 2017? Or are you learning about it for the first time in today's video? Are there other upcoming shows you'd like to see us do a similar deep dive on? Be sure to let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And until next time, thanks for watching.